Welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club.
100 metres, they're already off the start line. A little bit of a fast move by the big peloton of riders today. A little bit of attacking going on as Mitch Ferry tries to go clear again, putting some riders into some difficulty. Strong counter-attack though from Bart van den Eckhout. Mr. X100 does have a lead now. 2,500 metres of racing to the top of the climb as we see Mr. X100 with a little bit of a lead now, and this lead is starting to grow. Once we get over the top of this section, we've still got around 200 metres of climbing to go, but this is our leading duo. We're in sight of the finish line now. Mr. X100, Pablo Popovic, and now a big acceleration and a huge attack from Mr. X100 as he senses the possibility of a race win. This would be his first victory in the Sunday Race Club. Where is Pablo Popovic? He's coming back. There are three riders all in one long line. Said Safarzadeh is also there. Who is going to take it? It's going to be Mr. X100 who cuts the lasers first.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome. It's great to be back. My name's Matt Payne. I'm back after a few weeks away. Got to say a massive thank you to Jeff and to Anthony for covering a few weeks whilst we have been running the Sunday Race Club qualifiers. But this week we're on the big prize money race. This is what everybody is racing for. This is where those qualifying rides count and where those riders who've qualified with two verified qualifying rides in the month preceding are able to take to the start line. We have our traditional 45-kilometre course here on MyWhoosh, and of course we've got a hilly one with 1,305 metres of climbing along the way. We have three different areas. We have the initial wooded area. We move off into the countryside and then into the mountains to finish the first two segments, where we'll get an idea of who's in that group and how fast they're travelling. Segments 1 and 2 coming in that first sector. We then have the majority coming in the middle sector, the last sector. Well, that has segment number 7. That is 10k segment, and that takes us right up to 3 kilometres to go. So from 32 to 42 kilometres to go. And that means that here on the Sunday Race Club, our riders are going to need to be on top of the game when they are out and racing. Our riders divided into 3 categories. Category 1, our strongest and fastest riders, with the UAE clan team, the team that took not only the team victory but the individual 1 and 2 and 3 last week, with Mr. X100, Pablo Popovic and Said Safarzadeh taking the top 3 spots. Watch out, though, for the UAE Road Warriors next. PB ensured Yorkshire Pudding Express can never be discounted, with the strong riders that we know are going to be there taking on the action. And remember, of course, Danish Pavlov always have strong riders, so with Jason Osborne, Ollie Jones and Michael Vink in there as well. Will fit Yorkshire Pudding Express and take it on. Or will we see, of course, Toyota riders who have been really strong in qualifying. Category 2, so the mid-category riders. Well, we've got some really strong teams. The X-Pro team were actually our second team overall in the qualifying race last week. And will we see Kenneth and Vargas as well as Orega and Alfonso back in action. Tom Harvey, of course, very strong from the UAE Falcons, always strong as well. But you cannot discount any of these riders in the Team Italy B. Very, very strong indeed. And again, riders who we know that can be up there and challenging. The Climbers team, well, they've got Mr. G in there and Ryan Giuliano, and we know he can also be in the mix. In Category 3, well, we have a Team Italy. And of course, for Team Italy, Finati and Martinoli, both are going to be able to challenge. However, they're not going to be able to challenge for the team. Not enough riders in there. It's 3 riders to count, which means that the CM team and the Renegades could both be in there. And with Gomez, Uruguay and Valencia, as well as Esh able to challenge in the men's category. Will it be those riders who are going to be up there? Remember, each of our categories riding for money, riding for the win at the end of each month. And away we go. So off from the start is Key, hitting the start line with power. Remember, gold jerseys, they are the riders who in category 1, they're the riders we expect to figure, but will they? And you look at the power already. You've seen well over 400 watts. Last week's winner, Mr. X 100, kicking away from the start nice and strongly. And the key here is to get a fast start, to get into the leading group, and to get into the draft. MyWhoosh, of course, very, very accurate with Bart van der Dek out, one of the strong riders who was attacking strongly last week. In action with Mr. X100, and at the moment, Mr. X100 on the right of your screen, having to just chase this pack. The leading pack on the left are pushing on hard with Mitch Ferry leading this race out at the moment. And this very quick start has left the riders in the wait. They don't want to carry the strong riders all the way to the finish as Mitch Ferry goes over the top of Jason Osborne, but Mr. X100 has made that group, and this is telling. Remember, the UAE clan team here are incredibly strong. We see them week in, week out, absolutely smashing the opposition. Will this week be the same, or will we see Jason Osborne taking away that top spot? As you can see, the front is really fired up and working very, very well indeed. Now, you see the numbers are flashing for the watts. They're going from green to black. When they're green, that means the rider is in the draft. When they are black, it means that they are out of the draft and they're having to cut through the air themselves. We're just in at the moment, just taking a little bit of a look back at Jason Osborne, one of our real strong riders with Philip Grace. Both riders able to challenge, kicking out 6.67 watts per kilo there for Jason Osborne, behind 6.3 watts per kilo. And this fast start really hard, and you can see Mr. X100 trying to bridge the gap, having to put in 10 watts per kilo. Graves is winding up on the front, and each time these riders are coming back, just like in a Grand Tour finish, once there's a gap, that's when the time gaps open and the riders are having to push. And you can see this leading group, they're wanting to put Mr. X100 into trouble, but he's pushing hard to close this down. And it's Graves, Jones and Osborne who are leading this charge on the front. The pack behind, you can see Mr. X100's pack on the right-hand side of the screen contains a lot of green jerseys. They are our second category riders, not necessarily as strong. Remember, all of our riders vetted and verified before they start, and the data verification continues right the way through the race and post-race as well, including some really innovative AI technology that checks and learns from the riders and learns from their performances on the way through. Now, this is where things are going to get interesting, because we're very quickly already into nearly 2.5 kilometers of riding, and the climb at the moment is only 1% before the leaders that go up over the top. The chasers behind, you see Mr. X100 in this chasing group. He's got Pablo Popovic, his teammate for company at the moment. The squad looking strong at the moment, but they've got to keep pushing here. They cannot afford to let this gap go. So Popovic and Mr. X100 closing down the gap onto Baltazar, and then it's going to be Caligula at the moment, but they have got to get up to the very front of the group, and that is going to be a big ask because that gap really has grown now. Now, Mr. X100 currently sitting in 21st place, and it may well be that last week's efforts are really going to have taken the toll. So this is our leading group. You're seeing on the screen now here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, going into the first of our segments. 400 watts is the numbers you need to be kicking out on the front of this group. You can see that heart rate of Jason Osborne's 162. And this data-rich environment that is esports means that this is just one discipline of cycling where you can see all of the information, everything that the rider is doing. The riders have to have a heart rate monitor on. They have to have dual recording on the power that they're putting out so that we're able to verify and check it and make sure it's accurate. And that's one of the great things about MyWhoosh. It's so clean in terms of racing, the accuracy and that verification, making sure that all of our riders are in there. Now, at the moment, it's just over 100 meters between the leading pack and the chase behind from Mr. X100. Last week's winner has some strong company in there with Popovic, but they've got to keep pushing here. They can't afford to let this gap go too far. Osborne, though, sees the danger of letting them come back together. So does Vink, so does Graves, so does Mayer. They really are trying to push on here. Michael Knudson's in that group as well. Really interesting to see he's pushing strongly in that front group. Another rider who we see are mixing it up week in, week out. But this really is going to be interesting to see who can take this as they come through. So through we go. The time through that gap, well, they were led through there. I think it's going to be top spot for Stefan van Esteren for the Toyota Clan team, but behind you can now see Saeed Safrazad going through, chasing that time, putting out 604 watts, 9.2 watts per kilo, average on the way through 170, that heart rate, and I'm not surprised at that pace, trying to close the gap down and trying to bring his teammates across. So Van Ace, along with SS Mitch Ferry, Vidal Mer, Jones, Hoyos, Graves, Simmons, Van Eckert, Osborne and Knudsen all going through in that leading group. Behind, though, Saeed Safrazad trying to pull through the chasing groups, trying to bring the gaps back down, trying to pull that group back. Really, really tight in the front and a very fast time for that first split with time of 1 minute and 7 on a rolling course. And that's going to the chasers behind. So the pressure is on behind. They're trying to get the gap down. Osborne, Graves, Ferry, Hoyos, Van Est, all trying to push on. SS defending his leaders, his team leaders' position by not putting too much work in, but that gap at the moment back, while it is starting to grow, and that is going to do some damage to the riders behind. They don't want to chase too hard too soon because they're going to expend too much energy. However, the longer they leave it, if this pack stays together at the front, there's a lot of riders, and just like riding on the road or on the track, the more riders you have in a bunch, the more people able to take that on at the front, the easier that is going to be. But you can see that gap, it is still sitting just under 200 meters between the two groups of riders. Leading group with SS on the left of your screen, chasing behind last week's winner and second place last week and third place last week as well. The SS Express on the front in the group, leading out the main group. The chasing group behind, well, it is Safrazad, Mr. X100 and Popovic trying to close that gap down. They have to make that junction fairly soon. The further on they leave this, the harder it's going to be to make contact with that leading group. They've got to get across. And once again, now we see Tim Cutler starting to wide it up, coming in towards the next of our segment. This is going to be the second of our segment 2. Remember, in this first third in the forest. So in towards the segment, our leaders go. Just riding in with Mitch Ferry, 400 watts again between both groups. And you can see the difference between the riders as with our chasers, with the leading team from last week. In fact, the leading team that have really dominated the racing pretty much all of this Sunday Race Club season from the start of 2022, really rolling in. They have been so strong. And you can see the UAE Clan team in pursuit here. So Mr. X100 in that light blue jersey at the moment with the two teammates there, Saeed Safrazad along with Pablo Popovic, trying to chase this group on our screens now. They're at 6.5k, 8 minutes of racing covered, 360 watts sitting in the slipstream. And what you'll find is that SS is not going to do too much work. He wants his teammates to come across. He needs that strength in depth because it plays out when we get on towards the hills, covering attack after attack. You need to have riders in with you, and that chasing group on the right really fracturing here. The power of Mr. X100 to pull this group across with Saeed Safrazad and Pablo Popovic chasing hard. Mitch Ferry can see again. He doesn't want to let them come back. Lots of these riders watching live as well. And don't forget, of course, you can catch up with all of the action from all of our qualifiers, all of our previous finals on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel. And don't forget, it's MyWhoosh on Facebook, on Twitter, and of course you can go onto the resource that is on the mywhoosh.com website. So leading them through segment 2, Van Ace again leads them through initially. Now we're going to see that time updated, I think. Here we go. So Van Ace goes through with a mare on his wheel. Then SS going through, and we're looking to see if those chasers can pull that time gap down. At the moment, it looks like that leading group have opened the gap and are starting to make it their own. So 1 minute 18. It's a little bit hillier, that section, but you can see those numbers all sitting around about 5.2 watts per kilo. And those watts per kilo really indicative of how much power per weight these riders are pushing out and just how much work they're doing. Heart rate, well, that is a real key indicator of who's working hard. Michael Knudsen, his current heart rate across there was 181 beats per minute. Now, 181 beats per minute is right up in the top there. For somebody as old as me, that is literally going to be my red line. That's going to be right off the charts. For somebody younger, that's generally a little bit easier to accomplish and could go well over the 200 at max. However, it does vary from individual to individual. You find most of these riders are really, really fit, really strong athletes, and they're going to have a really low heart rate. Even somebody such as myself, heart rate rolling around about 45 to 48 at rest, going right up to 180 is a massive range in that heart rate. But some of these guys will have heart rate down at 28, 30 beats per minute at rest because of that fit. And you've got to be able to race up at the front of the race. And amazing to see the difference in here. Now, this chase really has been a tough one so far. Mr. X100 again, nearly 7 watts per kilo. Saeed Safrazad in the mix here, trying to push on Pablo Popovic with him. And this is an intriguing chase behind. 6 watts per kilo should be enough to get them across. So the downside is there are 3 riders chasing what is 13 riders, and these leading riders are really trying to hand it out to the chasers behind. They don't want to let them go on, and if they do get on, they're trying to make them really suffer on the way there. So coming in now to a sprint section 3. This is the third of our segments of 7 segments. So in we go, being led in by Jones, Cutler and Osborne as they go in through the line. You can see the difference between them. The chasing group can see the banner coming, but it is still a mass of about 200 meters between these riders. The gap is not being closed down at the moment. Now, this seems like it's stabilized. That is the case, but remember, when we get towards the end, when we get into the real big climbs, that is when it's going to be next to nothing. 200 meters on that climb is not going to make much difference at all if you're a strong climber. However, in between, we've got this fast, flat section here. So our riders are now going into segment 3. Osborne again with Ferry, Van Easton, Cutler really trying to push on here. Mitch Ferry leading the race out on your screens, 520 watts as he goes in along that straight at the moment. And here on the Sunday Race Club on MyWhoosh, you can see we've had an incredibly aggressive race from the word go. And look at this, SS is dropping back here. I think we know SS is capable of staying with the leading group, but there's been a call for reinforcements behind, and Mr. X100, Pablo Popovic and Saeed Safrazad have called back SS to come and give them a hand. This team works so well cohesively together. When they've got it together, they are very hard to beat, but the jump has been made on them as we come through. Let's see the times coming through this segment. 1 minute 12 on the countryside sprint. So that's going to be our second fastest split time in terms of the 3 sprint splits going through. So now SS on the left of your screen being joined by Popovic, Safrazad and co. And we're going to see if they can start to pull this back. They are currently sitting down in what is going to be about 13th, 14th and 15th places going through that segment. And that is because the 3 chasers have chased hard. They're now having to take a breather. They've got to recover. And this is where they're going to show what character they've got. Because when you've chased and you've not made the junction, what you then have to do is recover, reframe your race, look at where you want to be, and then make sure that you then start to pull that back. Don't blow your socks off just chasing and chasing and chasing. They've got to think about this now and work as a team. Smart move bringing back SS, but this is our race at the lead, and it is missing most of the UAE clad team at the moment who are on the right of your screen chasing. They've got some reinforcements back there, but that's 200 to 300 meters now. Nearly 300 meters between the 2 groups, and that means that we're going to see a team time trial from the UAE clan team trying to close down the guys from the Danish Pavlova squad, from the Yorkshire Pudding Express, from the squads at the front who really are looking to make this count at the moment. Stefan Van Ace doing the work again here for that Toyota's Cryo RDT squad. Remember, Simmons, Eckhout and Van Es all riding for the Cryo squad, that Toyota Cryo RDT squad. And Van Es on the left of your screen, trying to make sure that they don't get caught back by the chasing riders behind. Safrazad and Co. trying to close down on this leading group, this group at the front of about 12 riders at the moment, still managing to hold off the chase behind. So, nice revs, nice pedal cadence from Vidal Mer on the front here, 86, the pedal revs at the moment. That cadence, that pedal revs, really important. And all the riders will tell you can sit and grind a massive gear out, but it's going to do loads of damage to you. Like, save that for when you need to kick over a hillside. A key is to keep those revs nice and high. You can see we Stakes 100 on the climb there, out of the saddle, really starting to push, and that team are working well together on the right of the screen. They've got to get this gap back down on the left. It looks like it's come back a little bit, so the four riders are going together, but we now go into segment number 4, and this is where we're going to be able to see what that split is. Remember, our top 3 riders from each team will count towards the team prize. Big money team prizes, big money individual prizes. Riders can take both. That's why it's critical to have a good team and to get that individual win as well. And that's what these riders are looking to do. All of that work in qualifying, and there's 2 qualifying rides in. Well, that is key. And at the moment, those gaps are starting to open up. And once that opens, then we're going to be in trouble, I think, for the chasing riders behind. You can see at the moment, Mr. X100 and Co. are trying to close down the gap. But the UAE clan team at the moment are really having a hard time. Ferry, Osborne, Hoyos, along with Vink, Graves, all putting in the work. It looks like Van den Eekholt, a real good extra rider here. Van Es, we've seen it be strong time and time again on the Sunday Race Club, but now he's being backed up here. Olivier Simmons, along with Bart Van den Eekholt, working to make sure that they are going to be right up there in those team standings, top 3 out of the teams count, a maximum of 5 riders in the team. Yorkshire Pudding Express are putting 4 riders up there and taking top spot with Vidal Mer, the leading rider, of 1 minute 11 going through there. And just see those numbers just starting to drop to 4.5 to 5 watts per kilo. And that's an indicator that the riders are now a little bit more pace, and this could give the chance to the UAE clan team to start to close down the gap. Let's see what they do when they come in now. Now you can see, say, Safrazad starting to push in to try and break that little bit of a gap down. So it looks like the squad from the UAE clan team starting to push back in. However, Mare, Graves in there for the Yorkshire Pudding Express, along with Ferry. They've got 3 riders in that leading group. And if you look at further back at Cryo RDT with 2, with Van Eekhout and Van Eest, watch out for Dej Pavlova's squad, though. They've still got 3 riders in there, and that's why it's so hard to close this gap down. All of the squads riding as squads, all of the squads working with their teammates. However, that initial gap that opened caught the UAE clan team on the hop somewhat, and they've got to push back to get back in. And you can just see as we come in this next section, we've ridden this on MyWhoosh. It's real roller coaster. It's really hard. You've got climb, level, climb again, levels out. Every time it does that, the turbo trainer clamping down on the riders. If you want to see what the riders have to do to make sure that they comply so that it is the same for everybody, don't forget you can go onto the MyWhoosh website, www.mywhoosh.com, and then you'll be able to download the packs for all of the races, the race manuals, just like you do in any other discipline of cycling. E-cycling, the world, the virtual world where everybody is racing in their own reality at home, in their pain cave, in the gym, wherever they're set up to go. Could be down at the bike shop, out and racing, taking part, able to compete against riders from all over the world. You can see the flags down the right-hand side here. We've got people from Europe, we've got people from the Middle East, we've got people from the southern hemisphere, all the way across the globe, all racing together here on MyWhoosh on the Sunday Race Club right into segment number 5 they go. And these are our leaders just going through into that segment. So this is going to be really interesting now to see whether that gap is continuing to be held down. Popovic putting in a big effort here to try and get back onto the wheel. Saeed Safrazad, the riders from the UAE Clan team here, are virtually sprinting to go up and through. Underneath that sprint line they go. And at the moment, it's going to be about 350 meters between the two sets of riders. That is telling, because that is now nearly a third of a kilometre between these riders, I think, by the judging by where they are on the maps. And on the distance, that is going to be telling, and it's height gain in that as well, with the leading group currently at 162 metres of ascent, 157 metres of ascent for the UAE Clan team. They can see the riders in front of them. They know where they're at, and this is really, really hard for the chasers behind. The guys at the front, they're under pressure. We're seeing the same names on the front time and time again. Ferry, Mayer, Osborne, Grace, Hoyos in there, Vinks in there. Riders we need to watch out for, the riders who are maybe not doing too much work at this stage but still saving something. Vink, though, going through very fast there, 1:10. The pressure is on behind. The chasers are coming. Graves, Ferry, Van den Eekhout, followed by Hoyos, Mayer. Then it's going to be Zach Nair of the next PB Insured squad. Zach, another of our regular riders from the States, out taking on the Dank Knudsen as they came in through there. So you can just see going through this time, though. Look at that now. They're starting to come. They've put the pressure on with Saeed Safrazad comes through 1 minute 9 seconds, 19.397. And all top 4 spots, the 4 chasers behind. So this is getting me back together again. UAE Clan team taking the top 4 spots, going through that segment faster than Fink, Grace, Ferry, Van den Eekhout, Hoyos, Nair, and Knudsen. They put in seconds. It's only a matter of seconds, but every single second will count in this pursuit. Remember, this is as we came through the 5th of 7 segments. Wow, what a race we've got. If you're just joining us here on MyWhoosh on the Sunday Race Club, are chasing 4 riders, all from the UAE Clan team. Saeed Safrazad, SS, Mr. X100, and Pablo Popovic, chasing down an early breakaway of about 15 riders in total. It's down to about 12 riders at the moment. We're currently just over a third of the race distance in. The gap is a matter of about 300 to 400 meters. It is yo-yoing up and down. The time gap is varying as well, as the UAE Clan team are now starting to pull back on the leaders. The leading group have been pushing incredibly hard. The gap is currently at 14 seconds between our leaders and this chasing group. Mr. X100 there in the blue jersey with the red hair. You can just see Saeed Safrazad and Pablo Popovic coming through behind him there. And then it's going to be the leaders to the left of your screen now. So our leading group, they have put the distance in. They've put the attack in. They've gone clear. They noticed that they didn't have the UAE Clan team in the shape of Popovic. They didn't have Saeed Safrazad, and they didn't have Mr. X100 in the mix. They did have SS up there, but the call came out as we came through about 12 kilometers to go for SS to drop back. He's dropped back, and now the UAE Clan team chasers that were 3 are 4. Remember, that leading group, though, has multiple teams with multiple riders in. And that means that they are still working really, really quickly, really fast, and really cohesively on the front. Not too many passengers in that front group. Most people taking a turn, and that is still staying ahead. Currently, the gap has been closed down. We're down at just under 200 meters between the leaders and the chasers behind. And you can see with the same 2 screens at the moment, if you look at the windmills to the right-hand side here, and look at the billboard, the white MyWhoosh billboard to the left-hand side of the screen here, you can see the leaders are about to go past that MyWhoosh billboard. They're about to hit that now. They're behind. The chasers are coming, and they're going to make their way up. You can see that billboard is coming, so that gap is coming. It's 200 meters. At one point, it was over 400 meters between these riders. It's back down to 200 meters. This is going to be close because we're going to come in. And remember, on MyWhoosh, we traditionally have a very fast finish. It's not just about getting off the blocks quick. It's about being able to hold that pace. So in we go. Next segment. This is going to tell us who is riding fast. Remember, at the last segment, the UAE clan team had pulled some of that time back. Well, the leaders are in and through. The chasers are on the way in towards it now. That gap is coming down. It was at 15 seconds. It's down to 10 seconds between the leaders, back up to about 11 seconds now. So it's just yo-yoing just over that 10-second marker. How much more time can they pull out on this segment? Very, very close indeed. The chase is on the UAE clan team. Working well. Remember, they have the top three from last week's qualifier. 2 qualifying rides must be verified, must be checked and made sure that they are correct, and must be official results for the riders to be able to ride in the final, in the prize money final, which takes place at the end of each month. Our next one, of course, taking place in June. This is the finals for May. A real pleasure to be back here, commentating on the mic, watching this racing live here on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you tick that box. My name is Matt Payne, bringing you all of the action here, and looking forward to seeing how this race pans out. Phil Graves watching the lone attack here by Mitch Ferry, as Ferry has gone on the front and he won't want to try and stay out there on his own. There's no way that Ferry thinks he can go to the finish on his own, not with so many riders behind. I think he pushed through onto the front, and now you can see the riders are closing down. We can see the group of chasers immediately at the front of your screen. A little bit further down, just at the road junction, you can see the race leaders. That is the distance between them. There's very little to choose. That gap now down to 7 seconds, 7 to 8 seconds between our leaders and the chasing group behind. How much damage has it done? How much has it taken out the legs? They could finish plumb last now, and this chase has been amazing by these 4 riders. It's not going to happen, though. They've showed they're strong, they show they're powerful, and they've now got to make that junction. They want to bring the whole team across, all 4 chasers, and want to make that massive effort coming in from SS to come over. Remember, he dropped back to give the riders a hand and to look after his teammates. He goes over the top again. Remember, the rider on the front doing far less work. The complex algorithm that is aerodynamics, basically, more riders that you have in front of you, more riders that you have behind you, faster you go, closer they are, quicker you go, less effort you put in. Really is easy. Stay tucked in. Don't do too much work. Unfortunately for these 4, there are 4 riders chasing. They are bringing this gap back down again. They are pushing, but once we are on this hill, you can see the leading group at the moment continuing to push, not wanting to let the chasers come back. So he's just leading them through here. Looks like SS has done a massive shift here. Now he kicks it back on to get back into the group. This is so hard for these 4 riders here, trying to close the gap down. You can see the next race, the next kicker, and this is where there's a chance, because when the riders roll in, the lead group will slow off. The distance will come down. So a 3-second time gap on the climb. The distance between the riders is much, 3-second gap on the flat, and incredibly much shorter. It's about half the distance than the 3-second gap on a descent, and that is just due to the relative speed of the riders. So as the leaders come into that climb, you can see them backing off. The time gap could be the same, but the chasers now get a chance to come back in and on. It also diminishes the amount of aerodynamic advantage that the leading group have, because that group of 12 riders, they've got strength in depth, they've got these pack, but that advantage is at its most when the speed's highest. The riders, as they're closing now they know they've got to make the junction here. Mr. X100, Pablo Popovic, SS and Said Safrazan have to close the gap now. They can see it's on there. The leading group are going to accelerate up, because as we go over the top and he drops that down again, they're going to be able to accelerate off. They need the next little riser to be able to close the gap. They don't want to let this leading group drop down. It will be an opportunity miss that they cannot afford to do, because there's a limit to how many times you can chase. But it looks like they're going to make the junction on the rise up to the top of the climb. Here they come. So we're going to see the UAE clan team are back in, and boy, we've got a race on here on MyWhoosh on the Sunday Race Club. This race is all back together at the front. And the riders know that the UAE clan team have come through now. Are they going to take a breather, sit in this group, or are they going to just batter past and go, right, boys, you thought you dropped us, you thought you'd get it to us? Well, guess what? You haven't. But if I was in that leading group now, let the riders get in. They've made the effort. They've got back in, put in a counter attack, put in the attack over the top, make life difficult for those chasers who just got on. They're going to be breathing out of their ears at the moment, just trying to stay with this leading group. But they've got to push up towards the front because it's all too easy to get dropped off the back. We go into our next big climbing section. You can see it in front of our riders. They're going to go up this left hand and up onto the climb. Right hand side of your screen, you can see our leading group behind. This is the leaders of the second category group. They're coming in to those climbs. This is where we saw that junction being made by the leaders. The leaders in category 2 kilometers behind the riders at the front of the race. But good to be able to get back and have a look at our category 2 riders coming through at the moment. A real packed full of talent in there. And this is going to be really close into the finish as well. Remember, prizes for all of our category riders for category 1, 2 and 3 here on MyWhoosh. And of course, you'll be able to catch up with all of those results. To go up onto the MyWhoosh.com website, just punch in www.mywhoosh.com, click onto the results page, and you'll see those results. They are unofficial until all of the results have been verified. That includes making sure the rider's weight, their data is all correct, making sure that the ride performs as it should. Lots of things behind the scenes, checking to make sure that the race verification ensures a level playing field for all of our riders. Sure, isn't level, of course, it's hilly as hell, but that is the way of riding in the world outside of a velodrome, pretty much. And even then, you got banking. But of course, it does ensure all that verification that our riders get a fair race between themselves. Now, you can just see the course as we work our way through. It's taken all the way through. We are now working our way through that second segment there, going through number 6, going up towards number 7. And remember, of course, this first half of the race has really been dominated by the fact that the leaders broke clear. Big pack of riders clear of the chasers behind. Those chasers trying to close that gap down, but it's tough stuff. 23.5k covered for the leaders. A little bit further back, interesting to see Yusuf Badu in this group. A little bit further back, it looks like Balthazar just pushing up to try and go over the top of Badu, just leaving behind the riders. So it looks like 1 or 2 of our first category riders in those yellow jerseys just tucked in with the leading group of second category riders. The front of the race, though, up the road by just over 2.5 kilometers now, nearly, as they come around these twists and turns, going to go over the bridge. Another rise kicking up around the bend. But the first half of this race, as we go into the last half, the second half of the final, the prize money final here in May on the Sunday Race Club. First half of the race really dominated by that long breakaway. Our leaders staying clear, 15 riders dropping. The UAE team, who had to call reinforcements back in the shape of SS to help them come back into the pack. And it is going to make things very interesting now as we come in, because we have strengths in depth. You've got Van Aest and Van den Eckhout, who've both been riding strongly for the Toyota Creo squad. You've got Danish Pavlovas, Michael Knudsen up there, Ollie Jones, Michael Vick, and Jason Osborne in there. Phil Graves and Mitch Ferry have been riding incredibly strong. Zach Nair doing the same. You can just see a real mix of very, very strong riders, all working well up at the front. And will Yorkshire Pudding Express with Mayer, Cutler, Grace and Ferry, will they be able to hold off? Has UAE Clan Team done too much work in having to chase back? Remember that UAE Clan Team, Mr. X100, Pavlo Popovic, SS, along with Saeed Safrazad, having to work their socks off to get back in to that group. Never mind having those socks UCI length, they've blown them right off their ankles. They've worked so hard to get back in with that pack. That is going to now affect how that race plays out at the front, because we've seen big chase back, but lots of really, really strong, well-represented teams. Category 2 riders, remember the X team, the UAE Falcons, SPS, Slam Shop team, Michael Zone Shop, along with the Royal Riders. Yeah, squad also from the DS team and Team Benanke. The Climbers squad, Team Italy, all well represented up in that front leading group, and some very, very strong riders in there, with the X-Pro squad riding so strongly. In fact, last qualifier, they were right up in the mix of win as well. So, going to be interesting to see who takes away overall victory, but who also takes away those team victories in Category 1, Category 2, and our Category riders. Teamly represent Renegades in the CM team are in the battle for Category 3 team honours. Is going to be between the CM team and the Renegades team as they work their way up the screen on your left, showing you the leaders. Juan Hoyos on his way, being overtaken by Stefan Van Est and Mitch Ferry, just putting the pressure on this group once again. Right of your screen, you can see our second category leaders are working their way up on to this next section of the climb. They are spread all over the road with Cristiano Kedup at the moment. I think just having to do a little bit of chasing to try and get the group back in front. Yusuf Badu can see in front of him Moreno, Giuliano, as well as Mr. G, all spread out in front. The left of your screen, they are the leaders in the Category 1 race. Who's going to be taking away the prize money? Well, there's still plenty of climbing, plenty of distance to cover. The bar, top right-hand side, you'll see that we have two grey boxes. The first grey box, the upper grey box, is the one that shows us our map, shows us our region. That's the 4.4, which is in yellow, in the orange at the moment, because it shows you just how tough that climb is. We have to the right-hand side of that the level that the rider is actually at in the game overall within MyWhoosh. And, of course, at the bar, underneath a yellow bar, that's a horizontal bar coming across. That's how far our riders are through the course, with 26.5k covered by our leaders at the moment as they make their way up. And you can just see Jason Osborne working well as the camera pans around to take a check out. Osborne's numbers still sitting around about that 400 watts, but they now know that they have the UAE clan team for company. Osborne pushing on the right hand side, trying to keep the pressure on to come down. And I think there was a lot done early on by the riders to try and keep Popovic, Safrazad, and Mr. X100, three riders who took top spots last week, off that group. And the pressure really has come out. Those numbers really dropping. We were seeing 4.5, 5.5, 6.5, 7s coming out. We were seeing those coming out consistently. Now, this leading group sitting at 4, 4.5. We're not seeing many. We've actually seen some 3.8s. We're seeing 3.2s. That means that these riders are not working as hard. They're not generating as many watts per kilogram of body weight. And that is telling. That shows that all of the riders are taking some recovery in here. There's two things. It means that everybody gets some recovery. It means that everybody's got a lot more in the tank. Question is, who can recover best? Will it be the riders who are in the front not expending as much energy because there was a big volume? Or will it be the UAE clan team because they've come back on, they've got the role, they're the guys really with the impetus, they're the guys who really have come in, they've achieved something, and they're bringing that back and bringing the group back and coming back into the leaders. The leading group have let that gap disappear, and they've let this group come back to them. They didn't work hard enough to keep them distance despite strength in numbers. So you'd say the advantage at the moment is with the UAE clan team, with Mr. X100, with Popovic, with Safrazad, but there's plenty of distance, plenty of climbing, and plenty of tactics to be played out. Remember, draft is key. Staying in, saving energy. The only time you need to be at the front of this race is going over that finishing line. That's the most important point. Doesn't matter what you do in between. If you're last over that line, you're last over that line. Mr. X100 taking a win last time round. Well, he'll be keen to repeat that today. Will it be the case? Well, now coming up to nearly 30 kilometres, 28.2 on the clock for the leaders. And you see those numbers have dropped right down. We were seeing 400 and 500 watts. We're now down at 266. But knowing our competitors, they are really, really up for the fight. I think we're going to start to see some more attacking fairly shortly. People have started to just get the breath back. We've just had long enough, I think, for people to get some recovery in to now start thinking about, right, what do we do? We've got the group back together again. Take a breather. Get some of that lactic acid out of the legs. Shake those legs out. Maybe put a little bit of a sprint in to go to the front of the group. ease off, stretch out those muscles, maybe stretch out the calf, maybe just shake the legs down. You see people doing it on a road race. It's exactly the same on the racing on MyWhoosh on esports, because what you've got to do is you've got to make sure that everything is ready. Now, here we go. Mr. X100 just comes rocketing through. He's used that. That's a smooth attack there by Mr. X100. He's putting in a kick here at 7.9 watts per kilo, 8 watts per kilo now as he comes into the checkpoint. Is this speculative in terms of an attack? Is he just taking away the checkpoint? He goes through with two... it's going to be a 2-second lead, 2.14 lead of SS Safrazad and Popovic is again through. But I think all the UAE clan team now have done their recovery. And there was a very quick attack behind then a Creo RDT rider, man who's led a lot of these through. As we go through these segments, you've seen him. He's Stefan Van East to the Toyota Creo RDT squad. He's got Cutler, Jones, Ferry, Nair, Fink, Osborne, and Hoyos all behind. Pavlova represented 3 riders right up in the mix there. The Yorkshire Pudding Express have 3 riders also in that leading group. Question will be who can take away top spot. Interesting that we see for the UAE clan team doing that. Now that's a little bit of an attack by Mr. X100. Didn't come to anything last time. Now he pushes on again, gets back into the group, and that is how you need to attack. So there's no point trying to just ride off the front, because what will happen is very hard to actually break away. Everybody else gets the advantage of sitting in your slipstream. If you watch some track racing, it's a really good way to see how to lay off, to then use the group's aerodynamic advantage of hurtling through the bunch and then going flying out of the front. Real key way to attack. Never attack from the front, attack from behind. Remember, our riders, much more difficult. They can change the camera view around here on MyWhoosh. You just hit the keys and then spin that camera to watch behind, to watch in front. A lot of the riders have people to nose around. You see these cameras just spinning around. Most riders sit key looking in front. You attack from behind, you get that jump, you get that attack. Everyone else has to work, and that is key. Pick your moment right as well. Make sure that you do it at a time when everybody else is either taking a breather or their legs are sore. You're feeling fresh. Just get that surprise, get that jump on there. If you've got a big team, you can send rider after rider up the road, just like you would do in a road race. Different discipline, riding on the road, than it is on esports, and it's all about making sure you get it down. At the moment, these riders are absolutely the top of the game. Really interesting to see the return of the UAE clan team pulling this back. Now we're just going over that 30 kilometers covered, just under 15k to go. We cover the bridge here, going ahead in towards those big fir trees. We come in and so going to go into the member. We've just covered 30k. We're just about to head out from our middle sector into the last sector that join a fold in the map, coming at 31.6 kilometers. And when we hit 32k, we'll enter the final segment. That'll take us to within 3 kilometers of the finish. So the riders are now going to come around, and we're going to start into the mountain. Don't forget the riders behind, they're chasing hard at the moment. They're not going to pull back our leaders. That's Mr. X100, 9.9 watts per kilo. He just came through there. That was a big push by him as we come in. You can just see we're going to hit 31.4 into the mountains we go. The climb is ahead. This is a big dig, and look at the group. It is fracturing behind. They are all over the place now. The gaps are really opening up. Popovic currently at about second down, and 1 second on the road is a fair distance. The pace these guys are going at the moment. Now, this is the leading group. You can just see the top right-hand side of your screen, the map. It shows one blob of riders all together. That's fine when you're going and you're trying to work together. But when you want to put the attack in, when you start to put those digs in, that's when it starts to split. Look at the numbers. They've gone right up. We've seen a long rest period after the catch at 25k. And you can just see now they've got into this 32k marker, and the start of the segment. The group is starting to split. The numbers are big, 5, 6, or 7 watts per kilo. We're seeing from our riders that come through. Jason Osborne starts to push on Mitch Ferry. Jason Osborne and Phil Graves really are strong when it comes into the mountains, and you can see they're going to need to be as we start to ascend at the moment behind Mr. X100. Remember, he's already taken a win last week in the qualifiers in qualifier number 4. Remember, we have a 5-week month in May, and that means that we had 4 qualifiers and 1 final. Next time round, it's going to be back to a 3 and 1. 2 qualifying rides must be verified to get the qualification for the finals. Ollie Jones, one of our regulars, always qualifies to come through. Jason Osborne behind him as Jones now starts to really ramp up the pressure here. So Jones, it is a heart rate at 125, 440 watts. That's phenomenal. As he starts to push on, you can see Van Este, his heart rate is 178. He's worked really hard to get back on him here. Jones just on the front. Van Este sits in second wheel here. Now Van Este at 4.8 watts per kilo starts to lift it up, 5.6, 6.1. So he is trying to close those gaps down. Mr. X100 tucked into this group. This is still a big pack as we come into this right-hand hairpin. We've seen in the past coming in here, we've seen our riders in 1s and 2s. They're not any more, and this is going to be a battle of pretty much anybody out of this group could take it. They've all got the skills, they've all got the power, but who is going to be able to prove it on the day when it counts, when it's a prize money final? You can just see Mr. X100 in that blue just starting to push, trying to squeeze his way back into the very front leading group, 6.7 watts per kilo. Now starts to move down the right-hand side of that bunch, gets himself up into about 7th wheel, and just loses a little bit of positioning at the moment. That's not a time to panic, because that is the worst thing you can do. You can see all the riders moving around you. You put too much pressure on those pedals. You've got to play it really cool. Don't let the gap go. Don't put in too much energy. Simultaneously doing all that whilst watching everybody else putting in digs around you. Jason Osborne on the front, 5.3 watts per kilo, 33k now covered. So we've only been in this final mountain section for a kilometre or so, and you know what? It really is telling that this group is still holding together. We've got such strength in depth racing on MyWhoosh. There's always somebody to race against. Don't forget, of course, you can jump on and get a ride. Make sure you download the app, get your bike set up, get your turbo trainer set up, jump on, come and join us for a ride. I'm regularly on the MyWhoosh when I am back at home. Now, even when I'm out and away, I currently coming to you from the depths of the Dordogne, and we'll be back in the studios again next week as we make our way back in again, and we'll be bringing you all of the coverage of our first qualifier next week. But before that, the final of the prize money and the men's, and of course soon to follow the women's race as well. Make sure you subscribe to MyWhoosh. Hit that subscribe button, get notified every time we go live. My name's Mark Payne, e-racer, ex-real life racer. Drink too much coffee, pedal too hard, don't go up hills quick enough. Usual situation for most people, I think, pretty much behind the moat these days. But very, very much an avid fan of esports and e-cycle racing. For somebody who I absolutely detested a turbo trainer, gotta say, never used to train on turbo, hated it with a passion. Lost count the number of hours I spent on rollers, etc., watching stages of the tour. Along comes esports, revolutionised riding when you don't want to go out, whether it's too hot because it's 45, 50 degrees outside, because it's raining, because it's snowing, because you haven't got enough time, because you don't want to do all the washing, you don't want to have to clean your bike afterwards, let's face it. Jump on the turbo at home, job done, no messing about, and there's people to ride against, and there's great racing, and you know, on MyWhoosh, it's absolutely fair because of the verification process that checks out all the riders. You know you're up against people who are working just as hard as you are. Doesn't mean you can take the win, it just means that you've got some fantastic racing all the way, because we've got some amazing athletes on here. Ollie Jones leading with Van Este, Osborne in the mix, Mayer, Mr. X100, so Safrazad in that, Zach Nair, Van den Eyck out in there, Tim Cutler in the mix, Popovic in the mix. Nothing to choose between them. The time is ticking away, coming up towards 35k. Next big kicker, 11.3, 12.3. This steep turn around the inside of the hairpin absolutely mullers the legs. It honestly, you can't describe just how hard it is when that turbo clamps down. It replicates it just like in real life. Onward and upwards on the screen, and it's definitely upwards as you see Jones in the front of the group being chased now. They bring that attack back from Ollie Jones. You can just see Mr. X100 coming back in and through. And this is where it pays to know the roads, to get the riding in on MyWhoosh, to get those races in, the qualifying races. It's not just about getting a verified performance in. It's also about learning where you need to push. How much strength do you need for the final sectors of the mountain? How much effort do you need? If you're on the Jebel Hafid, it's a long, long hill, knowing that the steepest part is near the very end, knowing it levels out. All of the different terrains is absolutely key to know exactly how to ride, because that is key, knowing when to put that effort in. Get the riding in. The more you ride it, the more there is to learn, just like anything. Layers unfolding and finding those subtleties, but it's about getting it dialed now. Mr. X100 onto the front, squeezes through it. Only 5.2. That wasn't a full-blooded attack there by Mr. X100. He rolled almost to the front there, and that's an indicator, I think, that the group is just watching each other a little bit intently here. Still a long way to go. Under 10K to the finish. That's 6 miles in Old Bunny, but you can just see at the moment the riders know plenty of turns, plenty of hairpins, plenty of climbing still to come. So the segment on the left-hand side of your screen, that was our last segment before we hit the mountain with the UAE clan team of Mr. X100 SS, Pablo Popovic and Saeed Safrazad all taking the top 4 spots. UAE clan team showing their colours. They brought back the attack, the early attack by Osborne, Jones, Nair, Van Eesen, the Danish Pavlova squad, the Yorkshire Pudding Express squad, all are working with the next PB insured riders and the riders from the Toyota Cryo RDT squad to try and distance the UAE clan team. The UAE clan team brought that back. It took them half of the race to get back in touch with the leaders, but when they did so, this race eased off. It gave everybody a little bit of a chance for recovery before we came in to those final kilometres of climbing. Now, numbers going back up again. Those watts going up, the watts per kilo going up. Generally, watts per kilo is a good indication of climbing. On the flat, it's about absolute power. Can you push out 2,000 watts on the flat? Great, fantastic. That means you can sprint. Doesn't mean you can go uphill, because these guys are having to go uphill. It's kilometre after kilometre, and it's not a steady gradient. And that's the other thing that makes this hard, because we've got a very steppy climb. You see, we're just dropping down at the moment. Minus 2.4 the gradient, minus 1.1, minus 0.7. It levels, then it kicks up again. Every time it kicks back up again, you then got to push up. You got to change gear. You got to change your pedal cadence, change those revs. Some riders can deal with that. Some riders are great for that attack of the knees and attack and ease. Other riders, really steady. Much better when it's a nice steady state, steady pace as they make the way up the climb. At the moment, it is SS from the UAE clan team, Jason Osborne. Immediately behind Osborne for the Danish Pavlova goes over the top, but you can see a quick response. The rider in the blue jersey, that's Mr. X100, you've seen at the moment. Just holding on to this group, not expending too much energy. As they go up past the Froome sign, going up over past the MyWhoosh sign. So you just going to take this right-hand turn. And they come sweeping around. SS still on the front here. He's got a fractional gap and just went over the top. But now Mr. X100 comes up and through. Now he starts to push and just starts to test everybody, I think, here. Seen nearly 6 watts per kilo coming out, 6 watts per kilo having to be put out definitely by the chasers behind. So it looks like a response again from Jason Osborne. At the moment, these riders are testing each other, but nobody putting in a definitive attack. Every time we come into a hairpin turn, watch those numbers, the percentage gradient on the right-hand screen as we come around that turn. They go flick up from those grey 0.1s right the way through the oranges, through those sort of 4.5%, going right the way from a grey to yellow to orange, all the way up into the red zone. Once we hit those red zone numbers, then that's about being light. It's about having low weight and high power. It's about being able to have the strength to get around those turns as well. All this squad have shown just what athletes they are, what competitors they are. They have been fighting for 37.5 kilometers, 45k the total race distance. And at the moment, you wouldn't want to put any kind of money on anybody at the moment, because we're not seeing anyone really being able to force the pace long enough to get a breakaway. Again, another push here by Ollie Jones, another push by Jason Osborne. They're sitting at 6.5, and this time it's Saeed Safrazad who's closing the gap down. SS follows his teammate. Knudson's up there as well. Now, Michael Knudsen was really quiet in that group. He wasn't doing too much work when they were trying to keep the group off behind. Those chasers. Has he saved something for the finish? Knudsen right up with Osborne and Jones. Then it is Safrazad, SS, and Popovic behind. So Knudsen working well in this group. Really interesting to see that he's working so strongly in this group for the Danish Pavlova squad. Behind the leaders, he's certainly been quiet, but now all of a sudden we're starting to see a move from Mr. X100. He pushes up. He wasn't wanting to be on the whip hand of this leading group. The more that you are further back you are, the bigger the distance is, the more you get flicked, the more you have to respond. Up near the front, you can set your own pace, and that's what you want to be doing. You want to be setting a pace that you are comfortable with. Saeed Safrazad definitely has decided that he's up on the front to go over this little riser. We've got a little bit of a dip down, and then we've got this super sharp left-hand hairpin turn here. Makes it difficult to get the vision, see where all the riders are. Also, of course, you can see those gradients increase would come in and around. The road numbers go up on the outside of the bend, just like you would find a running alpine climber going up the Jebel Hafi or similar in the UAE. Then you will find that on the outside of the bend, the gradient is generally less. That means when we do a left-hand turn, the roads have an easy gradient. When they do a right-hand turn, much harder. You'll see those numbers coming right up now. Just into the tunnels now. This tunnel section coming in takes our riders up towards that 40k marker. It's another of those visual indicators that we're getting closer and closer. It's ramping up the pressure. The game really clever and pushing that pressure onto the riders. Mr. X100 tucked to the back of this group at the moment. The bunch is still all together. This is anybody's race at the moment out of this leading group. No one seems to be suffering too much. We've seen one rider drop, though, and that is in the shape of Bart van Eckenhout. Eckenhout was the rider who was up in the mix last time round. That is one teammate down for the Toyota Cryo RDT squad, and that means they've been pushed back, as has Simmons, and that could be taking the Toyota Cryo RDT team out of the running. So Simmons and Van den Eekhout now distanced, with Simmons at 3, nearly 4 minutes, and Van Eekhout about 40 seconds down. That is going to cause him problems, and that is going to mean that they are going to struggle. So that now means that Toyota Cryo RDT are out of that team mix hunt. It's the top 3 riders to count. Pavlova squad, Knudsen, Jones, Osborne in here, Vink in here, Pudding Express, Mayer, Cutler, Grace, and Ferry all playing hard up at the front. The UAE clan team, well, Mr. X100, the man on your screen is now Pablo Popovic, working well along with SS and Mr. X100, all working very, very well, in fact, with Saeed Safrazad, all in the mix, all fighting for position. They could definitely be in the battle for the team win here on the prize money final here live on MyWhoosh. Heading in towards our final 5 kilometers, 5.2k, I think, just to go, and hit that marker very shortly indeed. There we go. So we are going to come into our left-hand turn once again. So you're going to see another increase in that gradient after that little dip down into it. Now it's about slingshotting, carrying that speed, carrying that pace up round the corner. Again, are we going to see any of our riders in trouble? Van Ace is at the back of that pack. I don't think he's going to be there for long. Osborne on the front, pushing on. But again, those numbers, they're still just under 6 watts per kilo. Where will we see the attack? Are we going to see a final big push from us? We're now into the last 5 kilometers here on the Sunday race. MyWhoosh with me, Matt Payne, bringing you all of the action here as we come into the final 5 kilometers of the prize money final for May. We've had 4 great qualifying races, some really interesting racing. We've had an absolute epic battle with the UAE clan team, the team that really has dominated the race in the later stages of qualifying. In trouble off the back, having to chase for over half the race distance, pretty much get back together in that first half of the race distance. Really was typified by some great teamwork as they chase back in. However, the leading group put the pressure on them and they kept them working all the way in. A little bit of recovery before we hit this mountain, and now this is where we see who has got the strength to dig in deep. Everyone's going to be hurting. Everybody's lungs are burning. Everybody's legs are full of lactic acid. They've got to keep this going. They've got to keep the pace going. Who's got something left? Who saved a little bit when we had that bigger chase on behind? Who maybe hid just that little bit more than anyone else? Who's got something left in the tank? We see the numbers go up now. We're seeing 7.5 watts per kilo coming out. Remember, we've currently ascended 1,049 meters at the moment. A big increase in the numbers. It's big distances, big climbing in the 45 kilometers of race distance. So total race distance for the men's race, 45 kilometers. We're hitting the hour marker. This is a real critical point. The riders have to fuel up properly. They have to take on board enough in terms of fuel, but they've also got to make sure they stay hydrated. The fastest way to lose performance is to become dehydrated. Really, really easy when it gets warm. Really, really easy when you start on the turbo, when you're in your pain cave. You might have the big fan. You might have the sort of fan the size of a jet engine in front of you. It's no good if you don't put those fluids in, if you don't keep up with that hydration, the dehydration, 2% dehydration, 20% performance loss at times. Huge difference. They've got to keep fueled up, and that is more and more important as this race goes on. We go over the hour mark. We've got 41.3k on the clock, and our riders are still in this leading group, still all together. So we currently have 15 riders in this group at the moment. So 15 riders strong group. One of these riders is going to walk away with the top spot with that top prize money. One of our teams is going to take away the prize money. Who is it going to be? Long sustained bit of climbing coming up here. It's not into the red, but it is a tough gradient sitting at 6.5%. As you come up now, starts to tick in towards the red. But this is quite sustained for this climber, which is a real kick, rest. The risers definitely start to take their toll now. Who is going to be able to push on? SS just losing a little bit of contact here. He's got to get back into this group. The UAE clan team will want to have their full 4 in there. They've got a spare counter. It's 3 riders to count to take away that team or win. At the moment, very close. Nothing to choose between them. Time to make your predictions. Time to pick a rider. Who do you think is going to be? We come into the checkpoint. And are we going to see an attack over the top of the checkpoint? This will give us a good indicator of who's going well. Mr. X100 takes the fastest time through that checkpoint, but there is fractions of a second. The top 12 going through with less than 1 second, dividing the times of our riders as they came in through that section. All those watts per kilos down there, looking for riders who are not working too hard at the moment. Well, look at this, SS and Mr. X100, both low heart rate, so 148, 149, looks like 151 for Jason Osborne. Riders who are potentially more in trouble, those riders with a higher heart rate than people like Knudsen, but his has been high all the way through. May well be he's just able to sustain a higher heart rate. You can see Knudsen at the moment, 177 beats per minute as he was climbing up there. Van Aest, he's on 177 at the moment. And these are riders that are working well. The UAE clan team are taking top spot in that mountain ascent. And it now means that we are now into the final few kilometers. Now, the rider Juan Hoyos is an individual rider. It's definitely somebody who we saw up and fighting hard. He's at 7 watts per kilo. He's starting to put in the pressure now. He knows the distance to go. And it looks like Juan Hoyos is going to be the first big attacker here. He's gone hard off from the start here, and it looks to me like he is going to be the rider who is going to try and take it to everybody. Will he be able to sustain this? He's riding on his own. He can't take that team. He can take away the fight in terms of the individual prices. But look at this, a very quick response from everybody else. Nobody's giving ground at the moment. Those numbers came straight up from everybody, and they all know we are now coming in. We're inside 2 kilometers, 1.9k to go at the moment. Now Osborne pushes on. He doesn't put in an attack, though. You can see the riders are coming, but we see Knudsen starting to push. The gradient goes in, the numbers go up, the watts per kilo go up. But this is where we're starting to see riders be distanced. We're just seeing people dropping off the back of the pack. And I think one horse after that effort just starting to be distanced. So is Knudsen. You can just see Osborne really working well up at the front. However, I think we're going to see the UAE clan team pushing to get right up in the mix, and they're coming back in together again. So we've got 13 riders in the mix, and Phil Graves is being distanced. So Phil Graves and Mitch Ferry now in trouble, and that means that they are not going to find it easy to take away that team win. The Yorkshire Pudding Express, well, they're currently getting battered and getting sent off the back of the group, and it's Osborne now on the attack. Osborne's gone over the top at 9.2. You can just see Pablo Popovic has gone as well. And these two clear of Knudsen, but look at Knudsen coming quickly. He goes around the side through onto the front as well. They use that little flatter section to get a run in here, but the gaps have not opened. At the moment, we've got Popovic, Osborne, Knudsen, and Jones. They're 2 seconds clear of SS, as well as Safrazad. I think is sat a little bit further back with Cutler and Mayer for company, but they've got to push here now. SS comes up on the side. He's starting to cover the ground quickly, but you can just see Osborne really is winding this up on the front here. Jason Osborne knows he's now into 800 meters go, 750. They're disappearing fast, 700 meters to go. Osborne has to jump on the rest of the group. SS and Popovic are coming. Can they come quick enough? They've got to get him down. Osborne's gone here. Osborne could take this. He's got 600 meters to hang on. The chasers on the right of your screen are coming. Can they close the gap down fast enough? We're at 6 seconds of gap. Osborne has gone hard. Is he going to take away this win here today in the prize money final? Osborne went for it. A big, brave move. And the rest of them are trailing in his wake. He's opened 8 seconds. He's on fire here today on the mountain. It might be snow around him. He's going to be melting it away with the pace he's going. He's got the gap, and behind Popovic, SS, Mayer, and Knudsen are chasing. But there's nothing they can do about Jason Osborne, one of our regular riders. Osborne is going to set out the stall here. Will he be able to take a team win? Well, that's going to be a big ask for the Danish Pavlova squad. Osborne coming into the line. He's going to take it. He eases back a little bit here, but it's Jason Osborne who takes the win at the final second place. Oh, it's so close. We're going to get that confirmed between Jones and Knudsen. Safrazad comes through, and there. Here we go. So the unofficial result at the moment is Jason Osborne with the win. Ollie Jones in second. Michael Knudsen in third. A 1-2-3 from the Danish Pavlova. And that victory is going to be sweet. It's going to be just desserts for the Danish squad there after working so well. Behind them, Yorkshire Pudding Express leading rider Mayer goes through in fourth place. Then it's UAE clan team after that ferocious chase of Safrazad, Popovic and SS coming through. Fourth counter for the Pavlova squad. Vink comes through inside the top 10 in 8th place with Cutler. Then Van Ace Hoyers X100 taking a 12th place after that ferocious chase back on. What a race here today on the Sunday race for the men's final. Don't forget, of course, all the results subject to verification. You'll be able to find those on MyWhoosh.com. And once that verification is in, we should have it confirmed that Jason Osborne took that win. And in the end, 1.8 seconds clear from Knudsen. The Pavlova squad taking the top 3 spots over the line. Fourth place, Yorkshire Pudding Express is Vidal Mayer. Great result for him. Again, he's going to be up there in that prize money as we watch our riders coming up into the finish. So riders are distanced on the way through. So left of your screen, you can see Van den Eekhout making his way. He's into the last 500 or so meters. A little bit further back, you can see our leading second category rider. I think it is going to be Hassan Arethbury coming through. Just going to take a double check. It is going to be Hassan who's going to come up. So Hassan has the gap. It looks like he's leading a second category rider. Remember, our top 10 riders are already in. So Hassan working well. Bart van den Eyckhout looking to come in to the line. So Mr. X 100 came through in 12th place. I think he's going to be 13th. Hoyos 14th. Van Ace is going to be 15th. Cutler 16th. Bart van Eyckhout is going to take a 17th place. I think it's subject to verification and making sure that we've got all the right orders in the right place. Next will be Brun and Maglio, and then I think should be bringing home our second category riders. Don't forget all of the race available to watch back YouTube. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Don't forget, of course, to catch up with the full race results on MyWhoosh.com. Our top 12 riders being led home by Jason Osborne. So Mr. X100 12th place, and it was Zach Nair who came in behind him, and you can just see those riders steadily making the way in to the finish. They want to get in, they want to be in the prize money, they want to get the result, they want the bracket race when they go home. Now you can just see Hassan trying to chase down Christian as they come up the straight there. So remember, this is also for points for the prize money in the men's competition here. So Christian Maglio at the moment looking good in that battle with Hassan. A little bit further up the road, you can just see Olivier Simmons, someone who really was in that battle for the finish for the men's top position. He just got distance as they came into the mountain, along with Bart van den Eyckhout. That just getting dropped back, and you can just see these riders on these final slopes really are having to push. Heart rates are all up there, 150s, 160s, 170s, all of these are riders. Interesting that Jason Osborne, 147 beats per minute, taking the win with 5.7 watts per kilo, 391 watts he pushed out across the 45-kilometre course. So a phenomenal performance by Jason Osborne to take the win and lead home that Danish Pavlova squad. A little bit further down, you just said the moment it is going to be John Brun, who is on the slopes. So John riding for the next PB Insured squad, riding from the United States of America. Just got company, and I think Simmons just going over the top there. So Olivier Simmons just pushing on from that Toyota's Cryo RDT squad, just trying to get that little bit of a gap there at 43.7k. So Hassan fighting with Cristiano a little bit further down. This is for the win in the second category squad. On the right of your screen, the battle on the left of your screen, well, this is for the fight for positions in category 1. 3 categories. So all of our riders are fighting for prize money here in the prize money finals. Remember, all the riders also looking to take away the top spots in their respective team categories. But looks like Olivier Simmons, it's not going to be his team day today, but another great ride by him once again for the Toyota Cryo RDT squad. He's going to be making his way up into the finishing line very shortly. Just a little bit of a leveling out as you come over the top. It's deceptive because you have kick after kick. It is this little bit of a riser here that can do the damage when people are chasing, and the gaps will open up. So Olivier just at the moment just pushing his way into this dip. He's going to be back up on to the race. So Olivier Simmons looking good at the moment for the Toyota Cryo RDT squad. Behind him, John Brun just being distanced enough now for Simmons, I think, to be able to ease back a little bit into double figures, 11 seconds of gap, 12 seconds, I think, back to Brun at the moment. So looks like Christian Maglio and Hassan going to be Christian and Hassan going to be fighting it out for the first of our second category riders. We'll see who's going to take those honours as Simmons now comes in. Now Hassan chasing Christian at the moment. This is going to be close. They've got 500 metres to go. This is for the win. Remember, it's category number 2. It's going to be really tight between these two. So Hassan Al-Rumethri, who is pushing. Hassan has to close on to Christian. Christian in front at the moment. He's got a slight gap. It's 2 seconds. Hassan chasing hard here. It's going to be close. 300 meters now to go. Less than 300 meters to go. And there's nothing between them. There's 3 seconds. Hassan has to close 100 meters a second and get his nose in front as they hit the line. What's it going to be as they come in here? Hassan's at 3, 4, 5 watts per kilo now. Christian's at 4.5. Hassan's got the advantage just in the watts per kilo at the moment. He's got to push here as they come in. You can see where the summit line is. That's not the finishing line. They've got to push right the way through the summit and into the plateau above. And this is where experience counts. But both these riders, Reyes, Hassan and Christian, are fighting it out. This is for the money, boys. No more dress rehearsals. You've got to make it count. Hassan sat in the wheel here. He's waiting to jump. I think Christian's gone. He's pushed hard down that dip. Now Hassan takes a run at him and he goes over the top. I think Hassan now at 5.1. Christian's got to respond here. That gantry's going to come really, really quickly. They're at 44.3 and over the top goes Christian again. So Christian's got Hassan has to respond to this. Here comes the next kicker. So they're into the dip. They're going to be on to the rise. They go past the banner on the right-hand side. They take the left-hand turn. The distance is ticking down. Christian with a gap. But look at the response here by Hassan. Hassan, I'm just seeing big numbers from him as he comes up. He's going to be fighting it. This is mano a mano, to quote the great Hugh Porter on the mic. It's some fantastic racing here. Hassan and Christian are going to be fighting to the end here. We're at 44.6, 44.7 is just coming up. Now, most riders think they can sprint for 300 meters. These boys have been doing this constantly for the last 3 kilometers. No give, no take. It is all just a slug after slug. They are fighting all the way. There's nothing to choose between them. And this is going to come down to these last few hundred meters. Who's going to take away top spot? Who's going to be the best of our second category riders? Will it be Hassan? Hassan Al-Rumethri looking to take this. Can Al-Rumethri take the spot? He's got the lead on Christian. Christian's coming hard at him here, though. Here comes the sprint from Christian. Christian pushes in. Oh, it's going to be Christian who takes top spot. Hassan takes second place as they come in and through the line. So 1 and 2, Team Italy B rider Christian Maglio taking the first second category rider over the line. Then it is UAE Falcons Hassan Al-Rumethri who comes in and takes second place for the UAE Falcons. They round out the top 20 riders home here today on the Sunday Race Club men's race. The prize money final, taking place at the end of each month here on MyWhoosh. Don't forget to make sure that you jump on to www.mywhoosh.com to catch up with all of the race results. At the moment, unofficial until they're all verified, then it will say official up on the screen. Don't forget, of course, we're back next week with the men's race, but before that, we have coming up very shortly the women's final for May. I'm going to be bringing you all of the action on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel. So a fantastic men's race here to round up a cracking May on MyWhoosh on the Sunday Race Club. My name's Matt Payne. I'm looking forward to bringing you the women's race and then moving into our qualifying in June, of course. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you for the women's race, hopefully, very shortly indeed.